Michael Chen woke to a shocking sight, an intimate photo of his wife and her assistant. Sent to his phone by the assistant himself, without hesitation, he calmly tapped the send to all button. Now, standing at the company's IPO launch party, his eyes locked across the room on the pair, he thought, the game is just beginning. The roar of the celebration surrounded him, music, laughter, the sweet tang of champagne. Rainbow lights reflected off a towering pyramid of flutes, sending dizzying flashes across the ballroom. Michael stood alone in the corner, flawless in a tailored suit.
Ow.
But his grip on the cold metal of his phone was so tight, his knuckles had turned white. On the screen lingered the photo, his wife, Victoria Lynn, draped in a silk robe, holding out a spoonful of cake with a playful smile to Ryan Jean, her young assistant. Ryan leaned in to accept it, smug and satisfied. The background, a hotel suite. The message clear. Ryan himself had sent it, adding only a smug line. Victoria said this cake was especially sweet and wanted me to try. Thought I'd share. A familiar pain stabbed Michael's chest, stealing his breath. He knew this feeling. He had lived it before, the same betrayal, the same cruel setup. And in that last life, it had ended in his death. The memories sliced through him, falling from a skyscraper, wind howling in his ears, and Victoria with Ryan at the rooftop edge, watching coldly as he plummeted. But this time was different. He hadn't smashed the phone. He hadn't stormed across the ballroom, because Michael Chen had already died once, and been reborn. Brought back to this very night, the IPO party. The night everything had shattered. Double quotes, Michael, what are you doing over here? Victoria's looking for you. A department manager appeared with a drink and a smile too eager. Everyone knew now that Oratech's genius was Michael, the CTO, even though his wife, Victoria, the CEO, was the face of the company. Michael quickly wiped the storm from his eyes, locked the phone, slid it into his pocket, and put on his well-practiced mild smile. Just catching some air, he replied. Right? It's loud in there. But hey, it's a huge night. Come on, Victoria's about to cut the cake. Michael allowed himself to be led back into the glittering ballroom. Under the chandeliers, Victoria shone in a crimson dress, laughing with investors. Ryan was glued to her side, topping up her glass, whispering in her ear with that too familiar intimacy. Snippets of chatter drifted around him. They make a great team. A real power couple. Ryan's practically her right hand these days. Michael listened, the chills settling deep in his bones. In his past life, he'd thought Ryan was just over a gur. He hadn't looked deeper. Now he saw the truth that had always been in plain sight. Victoria spotted him, her flawless smile never faltering. Michael, come here. Mr. Hayes was just praising our security system. Michael stepped closer, meeting Ryan's eyes. For a split second, behind Ryan's polite grin, he saw the glint of triumph. You're too kind, Michael said smoothly. It was a team effort. Don't be so modest, Hayes boomed, clapping him on the shoulder. You and Victoria are a powerful duo. And with Ryan here, Oratech's future is unstoppable. A toast. Glasses were raised. Ryan raised his too, positioning himself neatly at Victoria's other side, so he belonged there. Michael lifted his flute, fingertips icy. He watched Victoria clink glasses, brush a stray lock of hair behind her ear, laughing comfortably with Ryan so close. His chest tightened again. The cake was rolled out. A massive three-tiered masterpiece crowned with a glittering sign. Oratech IPO success. Victoria lifted the ceremonial knife, beaming. Michael, Ryan, come up here. The company wouldn't be here without the two of you. Ryan stepped forward instantly, shoulder to shoulder with her. I couldn't, he said humbly. This was all you and Michael. I just helped, but he didn't move an inch back. Victoria playfully scolded him. Don't be shy. You belong up here. Michael stood frozen. Then, without a word, he pulled out his phone, unlocked it, and opened that photo again. Michael turned the glaring phone screen toward the pair that had looked so perfectly in sync a moment ago. His voice was quiet. It cut through the noise like ice dropped in boiling oil suddenly, silencing the entire room. You're right, he said evenly. We couldn't have done it without Ryan's contributions. His calm tone was so cold, it sent a chill across the party. In fact, he thought those contributions were worth documenting and sent me a photo to admire. Victoria's smile froze, her face draining of color. Ryan's polished mask of smugness shattered, leaving raw panic behind. How did you?" he stammered, then stopped, realizing too late. The executives and investors nearby had already seen everything. The incriminating photo on Michael's phone and Ryan's panic slip. Whispers rippled through the crowd like wildfire. "What's going on?" "That's Victoria and her assistant, isn't it?" "That looks way too intimate." "And the assistant sent it to her husband?" "What is that? Some kind of power play?" Victoria recovered first, though her voice shook. "Michael, what are you doing?" "You can't prove anything with one misleading photo. This is the company's biggest night." "Our biggest night," Michael repeated, his eyes sliding past her to lock on Ryan's pale face. "Which is exactly why he chose this night to send me that particular photo." "Tell me, Victoria, what message do you think he wanted me to get?" He didn't call her by her full name anymore. "Just Victoria." Ryan's voice came out shrill, desperate. "Mike, it's a misunderstanding. I photoshopped it. It's a joke. I was just messing around." His words tumbled over themselves, sweat shining on his forehead. "A photoshopped joke?" Michael stepped closer, his tone steady. "You expect me to believe you thought it was funny to create a photo of you and my wife in a hotel room, with her in a robe? That's your idea of humor?" The words hotel room dropped like a hammer, and silence fell over the ballroom. Victoria's panicked glare shot at Ryan, furious that he'd been stupid enough to hand Michael the weapon. Himself. But Michael didn't pause. His thumb moved across the screen. "Since Ryan thinks it's such a hilarious joke," he said, his eyes scanning the crowd. His voice edged with ice. "I figured we shouldn't keep it to ourselves. I just sent it to the entire company's mailing list and the primary investor group chat. Please, everyone enjoy the laugh." Before he even finished speaking, the ballroom erupted with the sound of chimes and buzzing notifications like firecrackers going off one after another. Heads dropped to phones. Gasps followed. And then came the stare shock. Speculation. Scandal threading back and forth between Michael, Victoria, and Ryan. A heavy silence closed over the room. Victoria went pale as a sheet. She grabbed a phone from an investor's hand, and when she saw the email, she staggered back. Ryan stood frozen, trembling lips unable to form a single word. Michael set his untouched champagne flute on a passing waiter's tray. He smoothed his suit jacket with calm precision. "Please, continue the celebration," he said, voice steady and final. "I hope you all enjoy the evening." He turned, and under the weight of 100 silent stares, walked toward the ballroom doors. "Michael." Victoria's voice shrieked behind him. "Stop right there. Where are you going?" He didn't stop. He didn't even turn. His voice wasn't loud, but it carried through the still air, reaching every corner of the room. "You screwed me over, Victoria," he said. "The game is just beginning." The ballroom doors shut heavily behind him, cutting off the chaos and leaving only the storm he had set in motion. Michael stepped into the elevator, pressed the button for the garage. The mirrored walls reflected his cold, unflinching face. His phone vibrated nonstop. Victoria, of course. He powered it off without a glance. This was only the beginning. The photo was just the spark, ripping apart the facade of their marriage. The betrayal, the schemes, the final, fatal shove. He would repay all of it piece by piece. The elevator doors opened. A blast of damp night air greeted him as he walked to his car, every step steady, measured. The sky outside was black as ink. In the days that followed, panic and gossip consumed Oratech. Still, Michael arrived at work on time every morning. He went straight to his CTO office, held meetings, and managed his team as if nothing had happened. The only change was that he no longer bothered with Victoria. His emails and replies were clipped, professional, cold. Victoria and Ryan, though, were unraveling. Finally unable to bear it, Victoria cornered him outside his office. Her eyes were redrimmed from sleepless nights, her voice trembling with a mix of rage and fear. "Michael, what the hell do you want?" she demanded. Michael gave her a blank look and stepped aside, letting her into his office before shutting the door. He walked to his desk, sat down, opened a technical document, and said flatly, "I'm working." "What do you need, Miss Lin?" His indifference made her tremble with fury. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" "Half a dozen investors have been calling me." "The stock is volatile right out of the gate," Victoria said bitterly. Ryan had already taken a leave of absence to hide from the fallout. "Are you happy now?" "He's gone." Michael's pen paused. He looked up, a flicker of cold amusement in his eyes. "That's a shame. I would have thought he'd have the courage to face the consequences of his joke." "It was a misunderstanding," Victoria snapped. "Ryan is young and reckless. He acted without thinking. He just wanted to provoke me." Michael cut her off, voice like a blade. "Or was he trying to prove his loyalty to you, to show how much you favor him?" Her voice faltered. "Do you always have to think the worst of me?" "Michael, we've been married for years. Don't talk about our marriage." His tone froze the air. "The moment you let him send that picture, we weren't married anymore." Victoria's composure cracked. "Fine, I was wrong. I admit Ryan and I got too close. But nothing happened. We were just tired before the party, resting at the hotel. We shared some cake. He snapped a picture on a whim and sent it. It was stupid. I already tore into him for it. Tired, resting." Michael's lips curved into a smile so cold it made her shiver. The CEO and her assistant, resting together in a hotel room right before the company's IPO launch party? Do you honestly think the board and our investors will buy that story? Victoria's throat tightened. She couldn't answer. Michael leaned back in his chair, steepling his fingers. His gaze cut into her like a scalpel. "The reason I'm sitting here today is because I'm the CTO and co-founder of this company. My job is to keep the engineering team stable and morale intact. As for everything else," he paused, "my lawyer will be in touch." "Your lawyer?" Victoria's pupils shrank. "What are you talking about?" "A few things," Michael said flatly. "First, the formal separation of our marital assets. Second, how the company should handle an assistant who used his position to harass and provoke an executive. And third," his voice sharpened, "it seems there are irregularities in the accounting for a few projects he managed." The word accounting made Victoria's face changed instantly. Her voice rose. "You're investigating him?" "Michael, you have no right to investigate another executive's assistant." "I'm not investigating him specifically," Michael corrected, calm and clear. "As the victim of his behavior, I'm submitting a formal request to our internal audit and risk management teams. If an assistant is reckless enough to openly provoke a co-founder, who's to say his professional conduct is spotless? For the good of the company, it has to be verified." In just a few sentences, he had turned a personal scandal into a corporate governance issue. Victoria finally understood Michael wasn't just fighting back. He was methodically dismantling Ryan, and by extension, her. She stared at him, shaken. This wasn't the husband she knew. The old Michael had been a quiet genius, deferential, soft. This Michael was sharp, aggressive, relentless. "You've changed," she whispered. Stunned, Michael lowered his gaze, hiding the storm in his eyes. "Dying once will do that." He pressed the intercom on his desk. "Jessica, notify the engineering leads. Conference room 1. 5 minutes." Then he turned back to Victoria, tone, all business. "Ms. Lin, if there's nothing else, I have a meeting to run. The team's next project can't be delayed by anyone's personal drama." He stood, picked up a folder, and walked out without another glance. Victoria collapsed into the chair opposite his desk, drained and pale. Days later, Michael's lawyer served her with a draft divorce settlement. The division of assets was clinical, detached. It also included a formal demand for a full investigation into Ryan Zhang's conduct. Victoria tried to stall, but Michael moved faster. He filed a detailed report with the audit committee and convinced a key board member to add an emergency agenda item: executive conduct and governance risks. At the board meeting, Michael never once mentioned his marriage. His entire presentation focused on corporate image, investor trust, and ethical risk. His logic was airtight, his evidence damning. He even uncovered proof Ryan had used his corporate card for personal expenses and maintained shady ties with certain vendors. Victoria sat at the head of the table, the weight of every word pressing down on her. The leather of her chair felt like it was lined with needles. She tried to defend Ryan, but each attempt was cut down with colder facts, harder evidence. Michael's voice never rose, but every word was ice by the end. The board passed its resolution. Ryan Jang suspended, pending full audit. And Victoria tactfully reminded to handle her personal life with discretion. For the good of the company, the moment the vote passed, she looked at Michael in disbelief. He met her eyes, unreadable, but the cold in them pierced through her. It was a silent promise. This is only the beginning. A chill spread through her body. Michael returned to his office, locking the door. He stood at the window, staring down at the river of traffic below. This was the very place in his previous life where Victoria and Ryan had cornered him. Where, after he confronted them with proof of embezzlement and fraud, they pushed him out literally. They thought his death erased everything, that they could enjoy their stolen wealth and power. But not this time. The sharp ring of his desk phone snapped him out of his thoughts. It was his assistant. Mr. Chunrian Jang is in the lobby. He's demanding to see you. He's agitated. Security's with him, but he won't leave. Let him up, Michael said. It's time I saw my old friend. The office door banged open and Ryan stumbled in. In a matter of days, he'd been wrecked, hair a mess, eyes sunken and bloodshot. His former swagger replaced by the frantic energy of someone backed into a corner. Michael, what the hell do you want from me? He screamed, losing control. Haven't you done enough? I lost my job. Everyone's laughing at me. Are you satisfied now? Michael turned from the window and looked at him with a quiet, clinical calm. I did this to you, he said. You took the photo? You sent it. You faked the expense reports. All I did was expose the truth. You forced my hand. Ryan's eyes went wild. If you hadn't been clinging to Victoria, if you weren't always in my way, she'd be with me, not you. Michael stared as if the notion were ludicrous. What is she to you, a prize to be won? He stepped forward. Did you really think I'd swallow my pride forever for the sake of the company? Don't act so high and mighty. You're just a tech nerd. Without Victoria, you think I'm nothing? This company exists because of her networking and business sense. Is that so? Michael's voice turned cold. Did you know that the patents for our core technology are registered in my name? If I walked away, Oratech becomes an empty shell overnight. Ryan's face went slack. He hadn't known. Michael pressed on. And do you know why investors have stuck with us? They're backing me, my engineering team, and our roadmap, not Victoria's flashy numbers. And certainly not your brown-nosing. You're lying. Ryan spat. You'll see, Michael said, tossing a small flash drive onto the desk. You might be interested in what's on that. Ryan lunged for it. What is it? He demanded. A complete record of you embezzling company funds and taking kickbacks from vendors. Far more than what I gave the audit committee. Michael's tone was flat. The words hit Ryan like a thunderclap. No, that's impossible. How could you? How could I? Ryan stammered. The only way to keep a secret is not to make one, Michael replied. Did you really think deleting a few server logs and fudging numbers would be enough? He held the drive up. Tell me, if I hand this to the SEC, how many years do you think you'll get? Ryan's legs gave out. Cold sweat soaked his shirt. He looked at Michael like he was facing a demon. You can't. Victoria won't let you do this. Michael gave a short, humorless laugh. She can't even save herself. The board's already investigating her. You think she's in a position to protect you? Ryan broke apart. He lunged across the desk, claws for the drive. Give it to me! Michael sidestepped and pressed a silent alarm under his desk. 2 security guards burst in and seized the hysterical Ryan. Get him out of my building, Michael ordered, voice empty. And effective immediately, he is banned from this property. Dragged away, Ryan hurled curses. "You'll rot in hell for this, you bastard. Victoria will make you pay." His shrieks faded down the corridor. Silence settled back over the office. Michael's phone buzzed, Victoria calling. He ignored it at first, then let it ring through until he finally answered. Her voice was tight with panic and fury. "Michael, what did you do to Ryan?" "He just called me a minor issue," Michael interrupted, smooth and even. "I had a conversation with him about the evidence I possessed, kind that could land him in prison for a long time." The breath on the other end stopped cold. "Also," he added, "consider this your formal notice. Under the terms of our separation, I'm demanding a division of your shares. If you object, we can settle it in court." "Don't you dare," Victoria screamed. "Push me." Michael laughed, dry and empty. He hung up and set the phone down, his gaze returning to the window and the bright, cloudless sky beyond. On the other end of that line, Victoria felt a terror far worse than any fall. Her empire was crumbling from within, and his revenge was only getting started. He picked up his desk phone and dialed his lead engineer. "We'll get the team together. Conference room 1. Now, we need to talk about the next phase of Project Nova." The light on the phone blinked again, an internal audit line. "Mr. Chen," the auditor said, "the preliminary report on the projects Ryan managed is complete. It's worse than we thought. The kickbacks are substantial. We've traced large payments to an offshore shell registered under Ms. Lin's name." "Understood," Michael said. "Submit the report to the board's special investigative committee and copy the independent directors. Make the evidence ironcladable to withstand any legal challenge." "Will do, Mr. Chen. Also, the SEC just contacted us. They said they've received a detailed anonymous tip and are requesting our full cooperation in an investigation into Ryan Zhang for embezzlement and commercial bribery. Give them our full cooperation." Michael replied, a cold smile tugging at his lips. "It's every employee's duty. Tell the agents our audit department will provide them with anything and everything they need." He hung up and glanced at his computer screen. A financial news alert had popped up. The headline was stark and brutal. "Oratech in turmoil amid executive scandal. Stock plummets 15% at opening bell as founding couple turns on each other." A photo showed Victoria surrounded by reporters at the entrance of the building. Her face pale, panic obvious even behind dark sunglasses. Another showed Ryan being led away by federal agents shouting, "Victoria, help me!" Online comments were a firestorm of speculation, mockery, and grim predictions for the company's future. The market panic was exactly what Michael had expected and precisely what he had planned for. Panic would speed up the collapse of Victoria's support. Panic would force wavering shareholders to face reality. Michael stood and walked toward conference room 1. Woo. His most trusted lead spotted him and gave a grim nod. "You've all seen the news," Michael said, as he sat at the head of the table. No pleasantries. His eyes swept across the room. "It's chaos out there. The vultures are circling. But for us, this is the perfect cover for Project Nova." An assistant moved quietly through the room, handing out encrypted tablets. "The work we've been pouring into Nova these past months is about to pay off. This is the final architectural design and core algorithm optimization. It's classified at the highest level. For the next 3 months, we have one objective. While the entire world is distracted by corporate gossip, we will complete a closed development and internal test cycle of the Nova engine." His voice was low, but it cut through the gloom like glass. "The world thinks Oratech is finished. By the time they realize the truth, Project Nova will have scorched the entire industry." He gave orders with precision. "Wu Yur on core module development. Zhao, your team needs to crack the distributed deployment bottleneck. Zhao, the security architecture is life or death. I want it to be a fortress. Any unauthorized access gets crushed at the firewall. Understood?" The room bristled with the determined energy of true builders. "Remember," Michael said, looking at each of them, "we are not putting out a fire. We are lighting a new dawn." Dismissed, the team filed out quickly. Silence filled the room again. Michael remained seated, fingers tapping a steady rhythm on the table. His phone lit with a text from an encrypted number. "The fish are in the net, awaiting your signal to pull." For the first time, the ice in his eyes cracked, revealing something hot and ruthless. "Victoria," he thought, "your terror is only beginning. Losing Ryan, losing the board, losing the wealth tied to your stock, and soon losing the legal protection of our marriage, that was just the appetizer. The real course will be watching the tech nerd you discarded turn every ounce of your ambition into dust." A strange calm settled over Oratech, the quiet at the eye of the storm. The board's special investigative committee moved like a machine, dragging every suspicious transaction and every hidden deal of Victoria and Ryan's into the light. The sex involvement magnified the pressure. Ryan had been denied bail, now facing a litany of federal charges. Victoria's name wasn't yet in the official indictments, but everyone knew she was sinking in the same swamp. The stock kept sliding as panicked investors dumped their shares. Oratech looked like it was in a death spiral. Victoria was frantic, calling in every favor she could, but the flash drive Michael had once shown Ryan had been Pandora's box. The evidence formed an unbreakable chain linking her directly to offshore accounts. Every move she made was countered by even more damning proof. Allies and sycophants who once crowded around her vanished like mist, terrified of being caught in the blast radius. Her assets were frozen. Soon she didn't even have the cash flow to maintain the appearance of her old life. She was drowning in debt and legal notices. Then came the final blow. An email from Michael's lawyer. It was the divorce settlement, final and non-negotiable. Attached was a compulsory stock buyback notice, citing a clause in their founders' agreement. If one partner caused grave harm to the company, the other had the right to buy back their shares at a symbolic nominal price. Screenshots of financial data proved her complicity in Ryan's crimes. This wasn't a negotiation. It was a verdict. Victoria stared at the screen, her fingers numb, the numbers blurring into a single image. Michael's face, his eyes cold and merciless. She finally understood what he had meant. The game is just beginning, and realized it had always been his checkmate. He wasn't just taking everything from her. He was personally escorting her to the gates of hell. Her hands shook as she dialed his number one last time. It went straight to a busy signal. He had blocked her. Meanwhile, the lights in conference room 1 burned late into the night. Project Nova advanced at blistering speed. Guided by memories of his past life, Michael's direction was flawless. Wu and the others worked tirelessly, fueled by coffee and conviction. A new technology was being forged in secret, a molten power gathering beneath the earth, waiting to erupt. Sometimes Michael would appear silently in the room, listening to progress reports, eyes calm and steady. Then the storm outside broke again. A court summons and an official notice from the U.S. Attorney's Office landed at Victoria's door. The charges: embezzlement, commercial bribery, conspiracy to commit fraud. Her empire had officially collapsed under the weight of the law. The day she was arrested, the sky was an ugly gray. She didn't resist. As she was led to an unmarked federal car, she looked up at Oratech Tower at the corner office that had once been hers. Through the tinted glass, she thought she saw the silhouette of a man standing still. Watching it unfold, there was no triumph in his posture, no mockery, just a profound stillness, as though the world itself was settling into its new order. That distant, indifferent gaze was colder than any curse. She had lost everything, and he couldn't even be bothered to feel. The sirens wailed and faded into traffic. Carrying away the last remnants of her corrupt era, Michael stood at the window until the car disappeared. Then he picked up his phone, his voice calm and steady. Notify all department heads. Executive conference room, 30 minutes. We're holding a company-wide strategic reboot meeting. At that moment, Michael Chenzaru, the true era of Oratech, officially began. Outside, the sun finally broke through the clouds, fierce and blinding.